Welcome to Raising Real Estate Standards. I am your host, Carley Mann, and yes, I am not Mark or Brian. We have kicked the boys out today, and it is an all-girls, or ladies, I guess I should say. We're not girls, we're ladies. And we are taking over the podcast, and my guests here are Meredith Parsons and Susanne Reeves. They are with Embellish, and they are full-time home staging professionals. I have been using you guys for quite a while now,
Yes.
and they are definitely partners of mine in the business, and I use them quite a bit, a lot for my personal properties too, when I go and purchase and resell properties, and they really help to step up the game there and bring more money, which I love.
It's never
As a
bad
seller.
thing. That's right.
I love that so much. So why don't you guys tell me a little bit about how you got started?
So I guess it started way back when we first met. I moved to Greensboro in 2017 and happened to fall into, Meredith was my agent. We had very similar backgrounds in that she was married to an Englishman, I'm married to an Englishman. We have she's got 2 kiddos, I have 3, but both of us have an Olivia. So there was a lot of similarities between us, and we became fast friends pretty quickly. And then what year was it 2019, I guess, that we decided to start the business? So there was someone in the area that we had been made aware of that had been doing staging for a lot of people that Meredith worked with that I knew, and she was moving. And so there was a void that some people were saying, who's going to fill that void? And it came about that we said, we'll give it a go. But I think we've done it very differently in the end. It's ended up being not
what her business was.
No,
at all.
She did it kind of a larger scale, bigger houses, and sold the furniture with it.
She would normally do parade of home houses.
Yeah.
Show houses.
Yes.
Not that we haven't done that, because we have.
We have a few.
But she would do not to the amount of stages that we do in a year.
Right.
We do more in a year than she probably did the whole time she had the business.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Gotcha.
And we're still not that big, comparatively speaking.
Compared to other
stagers, we don't do that much.
Yeah. Well, what would you say your niche is? What would be your bread and butter for your business?
Which ones make us the most money? Or
Either way you want to go with it.
I think we do it all at this point. We cover all the bases of just some full empty home, come in, give an idea of what rooms we think would make the most impact for somebody. Yep. Then we do some occupied staging, so people that they've got stuff in there, and we just tell them how to rearrange it, and maybe we supplement with some throw pillows and lamps, lighting, art, that kind of thing. But I would say we don't do too many $1 million plus homes that often. We get a couple of those, but mainly we're in the $500,000 to $800,000 range, typically.
Yeah.
Or we come in, especially I feel like with quirky, Sunset Hills, older homes where it doesn't always make sense and it needs to be
right.
How am I going to live in this house? Because you go through a bedroom to get to another bedroom. How do we make that?
Or what are we going to make that room? Or because really you do have to stage it because nobody can see what it is.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't have I can't see it. I have
It's
people,
shocking how bad it is.
I mean, it is.
Yes.
There are people that can't. I've had people after selling them a house say, "Can you send me the photos of the house so I can see how the furniture was set up?" They set the furniture up the exact same way that the house was set up from the sellers.
But it makes sense, right? Because if you ask me to handle the accounting for something, I would be like, I have no idea.
Right.
But if you tell me how a rug should be placed in a room and where that sofa should sit, I'm like, right there. How do you not know that? Right. You know what I mean? So everybody has their talent.
Yes. When I first got into real estate, that was something that I realized very quickly, because I can do that as well. Go in and visualize something and know how something should be arranged. Or a buyer would say, wait a minute, that house has wallpaper? Yeah, I can't buy it. And I'm like, because of wallpaper?
Yeah, right.
I'm like, we can take that down. Yeah. That is so easy. We can put some paint up. It will change the whole look. But people cannot see past what is right in front of them. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a very important skill to have with preparing a property for sale. So I would say there's several phases of staging. So there's your, like you said, the first, you come in, maybe somebody needs to rearrange some things a little bit. Yeah, you might fluff here and there. So you guys handle that.
Yep.
Another would be a vacant house. You come in. You guys do that a lot for me in my business,
Right.
completely vacant house to come in. And for two different ways. One house, I know I really needed it because there was a couple awkward rooms. And again, people start like, what am I going to do with this space? And
Right.
so you guys help stage, make it more like an office and a
Right.
flex type room. And they can see and visualize that versus, I have no idea what to do with this space. And then there's just taking a house to a whole nother level. So a lot of times if I do a flip, then I am going to bring in furniture because it just takes it to a whole nother level. Even though the finishes are nice and things like that, I think let's talk a little bit about the feeling and how people buy houses. Like, what do you think staging does to that process?
That word feeling is like,
That's it. I was gonna say that's what it is.
it really is. Like a lot of people will say, oh, it's smoke and mirrors. It kind of is. But that feeling that people get when they walk into a space that feels like I'm going to want to live like that, and I can live like that because this house looks like that. So all of a sudden, and I say this and I've stolen it from someone else, but like I'm going to have fresh limes all the time and I'm going to drink Perrier. And that is going to be my new standard because I see it, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is most people aren't going to live that way.
No.
But it feels really good to think you could.
Yes.
So that helps. And it makes you think that you deserve it and that you aspire to it and you'll pay for it.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. I think a lot of people, when they see a model home, because I think that's probably what started most of this is new construction.
Right.
They especially if you're going into a new community, they typically always have a model home. They come in, they bring in full staging because it does help sell
It
and
does.
create that picture, that story of how they want to live. And don't we all want to live in a model home? But is that reality?
No.
Not so
We all
much.
have kids and pets. And like the way
Yeah.
we set up these staging, no one's gonna live like that.
Right.
They're not.
No, I mean, they may place the furniture that way, but it's not going to look
Right.
like that 2 hours in. It just
Right.
doesn't.
It's not.
It doesn't look like that after a showing. People sit down and they move my pillows, and I'm like,
Suzanne's pillows get smushed and then she's angry at who sat on her pillows.
Yes, you are exactly right about that. But I do love because people, they do buy on emotion and then they rationalize with the numbers.
Right.
Yep.
They come in, how does this room make me feel? How does this space make me feel? Oh, yes, I can see myself living here. I think that's another key. Is they can visualize it because so many times with the houses, kind of what you're talking about, like we'll say just Sunset Hills type house
Right.
that's a little bit quirky and they have some different things. Is talk to a little bit about appealing to the masses and how do you give it some style, but also appeal to a broad audience.
That's a hard one because like
it is, but so neighborhoods are kind of specific, right? Like a
Right.
Sunset Hills buyer is gonna have they're not
They're
gonna
gonna
be
be more fun.
right. They're gonna like to see some color. They're gonna like to see some pattern.
Like so for us, we both love color.
yes, which
So
you would
staging tends to not always be color. So it is hard for us to like not bring in because it's usually a lot of
Neutrals
whites and creams and
Right.
neutrals and beiges and grays and then we're like, okay, don't bring in too much color. Don't.
but all of a sudden you get a Sunset Hills house and you're
then
like,
you're like,
I'm gonna
gonna
bring
bring
green
all-
chairs.
Yes.
Which is
all
fun.
the colors.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when you're looking at like a space that's tighter, you can have some color, but having too much pattern is going to be distracting to the photographer. So like it will show in all of the photos, and that's the first place everybody sees their potential property, right? Like
Right.
they're looking online, they're looking at all these photos, and if you've got too many things fighting, it just feels distracting.
Right.
So they don't necessarily gravitate. But you do get the quirky neighborhood, like a Sunset Hills, where people like that kind of look.
Right.
So you can have a little bit more expression in what you bring in, which is nice.
A little more fun.
More fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We like the fun ones.
Yes.
They always feel good when you're
I
done.
know.
The very bland ones, they look beautiful.
Right.
They're just boring.
Yeah.
but they look beautiful and they
But I mean,
translate
boring
well.
could be great for other people. Some people don't like
Right.
color, and
Right.
so that works for them
Yeah.
too.
I mean,
Right.
we do it all the time, and I'm always like, this is so calm and pretty,
Yeah.
but it's just not how
Right.
I live.
Yeah, and I do love when you walk into a house and it does have that sense of calm. I think especially
Right.
coming as a mom with,
Yeah.
multiple
Stuff
children
everywhere.
and stuff everywhere. When you walk into just a serene, calm place, you're like, oh. I think again it goes to that.
Yeah.
Oh, I could live
Yeah,
like this.
I could live
Maybe.
like this.
But half that battle, not to shortchange what we do, because I do think what we do makes a significant impact. But like, just getting your sellers to make sure their house is tidy,
Yes.
clean, and the paint looks good.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that alone, we have gone into a lot of houses where money is an object. Like it's
Yes.
you can't spend it's not an open checkbook. So we'll say, look, you would really benefit from clearing out, cleaning up, and painting. Don't spend it on us.
Yes.
Do that.
Yeah.
If you can't go the whole distance, right? Like, because that alone is the first step, I think, very
100%.
often.
Like, that's the first thing I tell anybody.
Yeah.
You need to declutter. Take
Yes.
half of it out.
Right.
Literally half. I'm sorry. Sorry that's the chair that you sit in, but like,
Yeah.
it needs to not have too much in it. Clean it.
Yeah.
I mean, deep clean it. And then paint.
Right.
That's the most important.
It really is.
I agree. There's kind of levels.
Right.
We're talking about.
Right.
You first start with going in and seeing is there anything glaring that has to be done that's in bad shape. Let's say there's ripped wallpaper or something. Okay, we can't have that. We got to start with the basics and then go from there.
Right.
So I try to, as an agent going in, I'll describe to people, this is like putting your house, it's getting married. It's the bride.
Right.
When you go to get married, you're not going to wear the same makeup. You're not going to wear the same clothes you wear every day. We're going to step it up a notch because you're being put on parade. And that's what this house is doing. There's going to be lots of people coming through. So we're going to step it up a little level than what you normally do. And then also, when I do a walkthrough, there's two separate things for me too. It's picture ready and then showing ready.
Right.
So for photos, it's a little bit different. Like they'll actually do like, okay, here's what you're going to do for photos. We're going to remove usually more things.
Right.
Yes.
But it's okay for these things to be back out for showings because when you're looking at a picture, it's like teeny tiny, 4x4 on a screen. It's really hard to see, especially if it's super cluttered. So that is definitely, I totally agree with taking lots of stuff out.
We had a job once, and there was a massive wall fireplace that went to the second story, and it was bookshelves running along the whole either side of the fireplace, and it was filled with beautiful books from a profession that would have beautiful books, right?
Yeah.
But they were so dark, and the house did not have a ton of can lights. So like lamplight was what we were working with, but it was also because it went to the second story, and it wasn't like there was not a lot of natural light coming in other places. So we were in there, and what we typically do in a situation like that is we'll take books and turn them around so that you don't see the spine, you see the pages, right? Because it's light and color.
Clever.
Right. Is it realistic? No, because you can't see what book
Nobody
you're trying
knows what book they're
Right.
pulling out.
But it visually
Yeah.
looks attractive. And we had the woman who was selling her house, her mother was in town, and she saw this and was like horrified at what we were doing. I mean, like, there I am on a ladder.
She was on like a humongous ladder sitting on top of it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I hate confrontation. So I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? I just want to get out of here.
And this woman is like, what do you think that is? That looks terrible.
Well, she's like screaming at
She's
her.
so mad at me. But you're right. In a photo, and I tried to explain that. And that's the other piece of it is you have to like try to get your seller to be prepared for getting outside of their comfort zone because it's not going to be what they want or how they want to live. And we're touching all of their things and and it's emotional and it's just, it very often does not go well at some point or another when you're in there working with somebody's stuff. But in the end, she wrote us, the seller in the end wrote us a note and said, I can't tell you how incredible this looks. My daughter's boyfriend came over and said, this house looks so much better than it did before.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, just hope your mom's okay. That was the one we were real worried about.
Yeah.
So really you have to kind of brace the sellers for what is about to happen and what's taking over. But we were talking earlier about a story where you guys went in and did a partial stage for one of my listings where you brought some things in, but they still had some of their own things.
Yep.
And it actually went the opposite of that. It went, I think, differently than what you thought. Tell me a little bit about that story.
So she called, it was late one night, and that was the day we done it. So she wasn't there when we were staging.
Yeah.
And then she called that night and she was crying, and I thought, oh my gosh, she hates the house. And she's like, the house is absolutely amazing. She's like, this is everything I've ever wanted. I wish I had done this for years. And so she was super excited. And she's like, now I know what to do when I sell my house. And then I get to pick out all great things for my new one. So, I mean, that was super, that was
good.
Really, that was exciting and special. But I immediately thought, oh my God, she hates it. Oh,
More
but she
often
didn't.
than not, people are happy.
They
Right.
are.
They
Yes.
usually, even if they aren't in the beginning, they get to happy at the end.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, it's somebody doesn't like something, we have to come in and change something, and
Yeah.
that happens.
People are stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
And people don't like change.
Right.
I'm not going to say I'm not like that, because I sometimes am.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if someone comes in with stuff, like, it is often a huge change, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Color, which they're not used to, or the way it's set up, or they have their favorite spot that they sit and it doesn't make sense because they've lived with it that long.
Yeah.
It
It's
doesn't
there's
mean-
always a recliner that they're like, well,
There's-
that has to stay. I'm like, that's the first thing that has to go. Actually, that's like non-negotiable. It's got to go.
But we're the mean ones, right? Like, we're
Yeah.
the people that the realtor will have us come in, and then
Right.
we'll be the bad guys. And then they'll still like the realtor.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important for the realtor kind of to facilitate the process, right? They can prepare for what's about to happen. They're being the professional by hiring professionals that know what they're doing, because even real estate agents don't know the best way. I'm always surprised about getting a home ready
Right.
to sell. And they bring you guys in, and then, wow. I mean, it's amazing the difference that it makes. And the price. Let's see. I have some stats here. I think I put the return on investment for home staging can be over 550%, which is huge. Now, it's not always that, right? But let's just say maybe they spend $2,500.
Right.
I would say probably in our market, the average might be about 3 or 4 times that. That would be what they would get on a return, which is fantastic.
Right.
You spend $2,500, maybe you make $10,000 more. I think that's a great
Worth
return.
It is.
I think it's
worth it.
well worth it. I mean, I know one of my last ones you guys did. We had multiple offers. A lot of times it will bring that because, like you said, people they have that feeling. They can visualize it. And we're able to get well over asking. We had actually already started it because with doing these things, I knew we could start a little high. We were already about $10,000 over the last sell that was in the property. That was exact same floor plan. But then I think we ended up giving $20,000 over that, cash buyer.
Yeah.
So because people love to be able to not do things, they can visualize how they can put their furniture.
And when
So-
you can pin them up next to each other, you could have 2 of the same exact properties, one vacant, could be perfectly clean, painted, the whole deal. But then you see it furnished, looking like someone has put forth effort. Of course, that's the one you're going to choose, right? Why would you not?
Yes. So what would you say the rooms that you guys stage the most? Because I know when we do it, we call it a whole house stage, but it's really not a whole house.
No.
You're going to come in and kind of hit those primary spaces. What would you say those spaces are you do the most?
You always say to do the entry in the first one, the
Yeah.
first rooms, because you want to hit them right off
The minute
the bat.
they walk in.
The minute they walk in.
Yeah. So typically, whatever's off of that too, like in a traditional home, you're going to have that foyer, living room, dining room, right? So we typically say if you can see those rooms from the front door, it'd be great to get those done. And then depending, if you move on to the great room behind, I don't ever think that's a bad idea. We try to tell people to save money on master bedrooms, primary bedrooms, unless it's an awkward space where you need to see like, can I really fit a king size bed in here? How will it work? I don't necessarily know that that's the space you want to spend your money.
Gotcha.
People know where, should know.
Should know where to put the bed.
Should know where to put the bed.
Right.
But they can always call. We can tell them where to put the bed.
Yeah. Well, I do think you guys are great about making suggestions. Okay, well, let's save here. Here's where I think you're going
Right.
to get
Yeah.
your best bang for your dollar.
Right, we will.
So-
Because
And
we
we'll-
understand people are working with a limited budget.
And it's
Right?
expensive.
It is
Staging is
expensive.
not cheap
It's
because
not. Because, I mean,
it's
we have to pull it. We've got movers. It's not.
And I think part of what separates us from some of the other staging companies around are the level of what we bring in. And that's just because pure preference on our behalf. Like we're willing to not do as many jobs all year long, but have a little bit of a higher end product. And that doesn't mean every piece has to be crazy high end, but like if you're in a house that calls for a certain price, you got to bring furniture that looks like it belongs there.
And fits it.
Yes.
Like size-wise.
Yes, I agree. I love that you don't have a ton of oversized things too. I mean, you have some that are, but for the most part, they're a normal size because a lot of times we're working with smaller spaces.
Yeah.
Right.
So that really helps for people to visualize instead of these giant sectionals or giant whatever it might be.
Yep.
So I do, and I resonate with your style. I love it. Obviously, that's one of the reasons why I use you guys. Because I think it's just a nice, I kind of call it like casual elegance. I think probably would maybe be a great way to kind of describe your style because it's elevated, but you feel comfortable in it.
Right.
So it doesn't feel stuffy. It doesn't feel overly stylized. I love it when you do bring a little color into, but not like you have these great little green chairs. I love the green chairs, and it kind of brings you pair it with maybe a cream sofa or something like that. So it kind of brings it down, but also brings a little bit of color in there. Okay, so basically you're like sticking with the main areas.
Main kitchens.
Kitchens, yeah. Typically a kitchen will get done, especially just like little touches to warm the space, right? Yeah. Like you're great at this. You do this yourself, I think, a lot of in spots where, you bring in a wood cutting board and a hand towel and a pretty soap, like just little things that can make it feel warm and inviting, make all the difference.
Well, and sometimes it's strange because a lot of times the kitchen is connected to multiple different rooms. If there's nothing in there and everything else is staged around it. So you kind of have to do a little bit of something in some of those spaces when they're connected to paint a full story, I think.
So it doesn't feel disjointed.
We call it a moment in empty rooms, like where we'll just bring like a chair and a side table and a lamp and maybe a piece of art and
in just one corner.
Just one corner, just to give it something.
A feeling.
Yes. A feeling.
Just to give the feeling.
Yeah.
I like that.
To continue the warmth as you tour through.
Yes. Okay.
But we don't go upstairs very often.
No,
you don't need to go upstairs.
We really don't.
Yeah.
Although we do try to usually hit bathrooms.
We do hit bathrooms and just put
with a little something.
Soap and towel and a green.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I go into a property, especially if somebody has their furniture, let's say they've moved out and they have 2 rooms that has things in it that are random. I'm like, nope, we either need to get it, all of that's got to go, or we got to bring it all back in. We can't have like 2 random pieces of furniture or this and that because that doesn't create a story. People are like, what's going on in here? And then they get confused. And so I feel like you need one or the other. Like,
agreed.
Do it or don't.
Totally agree.
And bring that in. So, okay. Well, tell me a little bit. So for listeners, because mostly this podcast is geared towards real estate professionals.
Okay.
What are some tips that you could give them besides calling you guys to come in, of course, that would be, of course, the first thing. But if they're trying to start on their own and do a few things to kind of ease into that and they're not comfortable with the design piece of it, what are some tips that you can give them with walking through a home with a seller to prepare them for sale?
To prepare them for them to help them out with it, or like bring us in?
Well, I would say first, then give them a few tips, and then, of course, then.
Okay. Gotcha.
Destage. Take half the stuff out.
Yeah. Declutter.
You're gonna pack it anyway. Just pack it now.
Yeah, that's your favorite line.
It is. You're gonna pack it. You might as well just pack it now.
Make your life easier.
I'm telling you, I saw a house this weekend. I couldn't focus. None of us. We're like, there's so much stuff in this house. It was so much stuff.
So Mare's really good. She comes in and she'll be like, she's good at knowing windows got to be done, gutters need to be cleaned, power wash. Like she can see all of that stuff where I'm like looking at, why is your rug on an angle in this room? Like
they're both picking out different things that need to be done.
So as the agent walking in, I think it's great for them to be able to see the big picture items that Mare's like knocking off her list, right? And prepare them that way. And then to say, like, your options are, we could, if they need paint or if they need carpets cleaned or that kind of thing, like you start there. And then if they've got stuff that you can work with, to say, hey, listen, if you could pull out, usually we say 75 to 80%, like if they've got photographs and books and like clear out the majority of it. And then most agents, I feel like, are pretty decent at being able to kind of place some stuff. So maybe not all of them. The ones we run into. I guess not.
The ones we work with, yes, but there's not. No.
Because we already know and appreciate what you do, I think.
Right.
So,
Maybe, yeah.
So you probably have a little bit different perspective there, but I would say most do not.
Okay.
No, they don't.
So then just get rid of as much as you can. Clean off countertops, put away massive corded items like
The cords. I always hate seeing cords. And if I have photographs, I'm like, I missed a cord. I don't know why. That's one of my things. But I'm like, hide the cords. Oh, like, turn on all the lights for photographs. And make all the light bulbs match. I'm sorry. Like, that's like some of these things are my like neurotic things. But I can't stand when the light bulbs don't match. She's next level, like, she's got a whole thing with light bulbs. So I don't know.
It's an argument with shades, though, because not all shades are the same. So, like, that's
Some
frustrating.
are white and some are yellow.
Yes.
Right.
And then photography. Like,
Please do.
hire a photographer. Do not take a portrait with your cell phone and put that in MLS. Like, you're not helping anybody. What are you doing?
Because they're seeing it online. So if the photos don't look great online, you're already screwing yourself.
Yeah.
No one's going to want to see your house
Exactly.
because the photos suck. I'm sorry,
Yes.
but like...
I mean, we have a house. It is a gorgeous house. And it has some of our really good furniture in it.
Yeah.
And every time I see it in MLS, I'm like, how are those photographs? It's over $1 million house.
It is.
And they are cell phone pictures taken not even
awful.
This hurts
in
me.
landscape. I'm like, it makes me want to say, do you want me to come photograph this house? Like, I am not a professional photographer, but I can tell you I can do better than that.
Yes, photography is so important.
Yes.
And I think staging, because, buyers do this all the time. But I tell sellers, the first thing they're going to do is look at the photos.
Yeah.
They're not going to read about it.
No.
They don't care what it says in there. If it meets their criteria, they're going to flip through all the photos. Then if they like what they see, they're going to read about it. And then if they read about it, hopefully we can get them in the door.
Yep.
Right.
So professional photography, agree. Number one.
I don't know how you wouldn't do that.
Why would you not do it
It
right?
doesn't make any
Why
sense
does
to me.
anybody do anything not right?
Yeah.
Like, why would you do it half-ass? I'm sorry, but like, it's your job.
That's why they started this podcast. I mean, really, that's why the Man Boys started, because there are so many unprofessional agents out there. And I mean, that's what we're talking about today is raising the standard. That's the goal with, if you have great photographed home with it staged, then bring in video. I mean, woo.
Right.
I mean, you're taking it on to a whole different level.
It makes such a difference.
Yes.
And it's sad because it shouldn't, right? Like,
Right.
it's like the whole don't judge a book by its cover, but we all do.
Yes.
Like, let's be realistic here.
Yes.
If, like I said before, you're looking at two, you've got the option of one looks real pretty and one's plain. You're going to go pretty.
Yeah. Well, I love to use you guys too when I'm competing with new construction.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't have a model, then again, if you're looking at the exact same house that's brand new, you guys come into a used, quote unquote, used home that puts your stuff in it, they're going to gravitate towards yours.
Because a new one will look sterile and feel cold. It doesn't have a feeling. Like, you're absolutely right on that.
Yes, because you have to have something to say, why would you buy a 2-year-old home when you can buy a brand new one that has a warranty and everything's brand new? So you've got to give them that feeling that they're not going to feel in that sterile brand new house. So I love to use you guys for that, for the same reason, especially when they're looking at photos and stuff like, well, let's just go see it.
Right.
Or maybe the agent might suggest, you know what, this one looks really cute. You might like it. Let's go see it while we're looking at this new construction. So, and there's different strategies that you can put around that. But I think that's another great space, speaking of the comparing side by side, to use full staging on, for sure.
It's a fun thing. Like, we enjoy it. That's, I think, part of what makes it work for us. Is,
It is fun.
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Well, I love working with you guys. We've had some good laughs going into properties and some really good times, some memories that we probably will never forget, ever, we were talking about earlier. But it's always fun. Thank you guys so much for
Thank
coming
you for inviting
on.
us. This is
having
very
us.
cool.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Maybe the guys will let me take over another time.
I know.
don't know.
should.
You did an amazing job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm thinking maybe professional photographer might be our next.
That's a good one.
I think that's so huge.
Yeah. I'm thinking that might be the next one.
And there's a lot of them out there.
There.
Yeah, there are some great ones.
Yeah, there really
for
are.
sure, for sure. And they're offering more and more. So that, again, that's a whole nother
That's
podcast.
a whole other
That's a whole
podcast.
nother podcast.
Indeed.
That's a whole
Yes.
nother podcast. But you guys were lovely. Always love hanging out with you guys.
Thank you for letting us
Thank
come.
you.
I do have a project I really want to get you guys in on. So I'm trying to convince it's an older home that, has a little quirkiness, kind of what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Oh, that's our jam.
So hopefully we can work together
Yeah.
again soon. So
That'd be great.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Carly.
you.